Welcome to the Kairos Wisdom Keepers podcast, where ancient wisdom meets the modern healer. In our podcast, we share how ancestral soul wisdom and cyclical living support today's healers in activating greater wealth, health, intuition, and spiritual connection. Here we are. What a journey.
Oh my goodness. Welcome to the inaugural podcast of the Kairos Wisdom Keepers. We are here in episode 1, the Reclamation of the Wisdom Keepers. I am so honored to be your co-host here. My name is Ina, and I'm here with my beloved co-sorceress.
I am Janet, and thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. Yeah. So, the Wisdom Keepers. Who are the Wisdom Keepers? Who are they anyway?
Yeah. Let's dive in.
So Wisdom Keepers. So Wisdom Keepers are anything that is really connected to the ancient knowledge, right? The old ways, as we sometimes say in this world. And we work a lot in this realm. We work with cycles, the cycles of the earth, of Gaia, and all that contains the information that has been held, the rocks, the ocean, the waters of the earth, the soil, all of these animals, like all of these beautiful expressions of Gaia that have been around for eons and that hold the history, the herstory, our story of all that has been, incorporated in Gaia, all of us as the plants and animals of Gaia that have benefited from, that have interacted with, that have explored through lifetimes, right? All that Gaia is for us.
Yeah. So the Wisdom Keepers are record keepers, essentially, just like a tree or think of a redwood tree that has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the cycles of each year are held in the trunk of that tree. You can tell the story of the tree through seeing all the tree rings and how much rain, how much sunlight, how much fire. Trees are record keepers. In that same way, crystals are record keepers. Stones are record keepers. They hold information because they have been here for years or centuries or millennia. Whales are record keepers. So there is wisdom and information that is held inside of these flora, these fauna. And in the same way, there are humans who are wisdom keepers. And in some way, all humans are wisdom keepers, right? Yeah. We're all wisdom keepers in different ways. And yet, some of us come in with deep knowledge, either through our bloodlines and the ancestral families that we were born into, or through our soul lineage and the many lifetimes that we have lived, where we are taking in information, expanding, and coming into this particular lifetime here on Earth to bring this knowledge, this wisdom forth, these healing skills, these intuitive skills. And, from where Janet and I stand and what we really see and believe in is that there are many wisdom keepers alive on the planet right now in many different bodies, cultures, backgrounds that are bringing in that bigger remembrance of who we really are, and are bringing in very powerful, ancient, modern healing technologies. We are in that convergence of bringing ancient and many lifetimes of information and modalities into this particular time-space reality, where we get to play with all the things. We get to play with technology. We are here on the Wisdom Keepers podcast, right? Like, we get to play with you through this medium where part of the remembrance is coming through your ears on a podcast here.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this deep way of how, even as humans, we are holding all of this, like crystals of record keeper information within us, right? We are of the stars. We are of Gaia. We are matter. We are spirit that has collapsed into matter. And the matter that we are is record keeping in and of itself, right? So the wisdom that has been passed down our lineage from through our maternal and paternal lines. I mean, there's trauma that's been handed down as well. Trauma has its own wisdom, like holding that there, right? And yet everything that we are made of came from Gaia, came from the cosmos. And so our very structure, our biology, is wise in and of itself. It holds these codes that have been passed down. And as we interact with Gaia, and this is why Ina and I we speak so much about cyclical living, because we are in constant conversation with our environment and with the earth, with the cycles, right? With the sun, with the moon, with the stars, because they all emit light. And our biology has been bred over thousands and thousands and thousands of years to interact with these cues. And so there's a different amount of sunlight in summer than there is in winter. And there's a different amount of moonlight at certain times and starlight at certain times, right? And all of these are in conversation with us. And they in and of themselves are record keepers, are wisdom keepers. The cycles are so wise. And, the earth has been turning for millions and millions and millions of years. And as the earth turns, all that is around us, right? Everything that is growing, everything that is living has been benefiting from this accumulated wisdom, the wisdom that is in the waters, the wisdom that is in the rocks, in the trees, right? And we are in constant conversation with that. And our bodies actually like light up and receive these codes, and things are turned on in us when we are in active conversation with them. And what has happened so much in our society over the last many decades is that we've disconnected from the cycles as we've had artificial light and buildings and concrete and it's living in large cities. And so we have become disconnected from this ancient wisdom. And we know, and we have worked with so many other people who are experiencing the same thing as a result of living with the cycles, that when you attune back to Gaia, when you really take the time to be present to the cycles, what's happened is that all of these wisdom codes, they get turned on again. When you communicate with spirit in certain ways, the codes get turned on again. And so we're in this space of turning these codes back on. This is the remembrance.
This is the remembrance. And we were born into an age where we have been very disconnected from it. So that's part of it, is being disconnected from nature, being on screens, being disconnected from our cycles, being disconnected from our bodies, being indoors and disconnected from the seasons. So that's why the remembrance is even more important than ever, because it takes a conscious act. You have to consciously connect back into the cycles and desire to connect back into the cycles and to disconnect from disconnection. So we're in an all hands on deck time right now where it's an action. You have to be committed to the remembrance. You have to be committed to sunlight. You have to be committed to getting outside and being in nature. You have to be committed to turn your screens off, to not be scrolling all the time. All of that energy pulls you out of the remembrance of who you are. And so it's a conscious act that we are in here now as wisdom keepers who are coming into our remembrance, and the distractions are stronger than ever. So it takes even more internal impetus and commitment to connect into these parts of ourselves. And the amazing thing is that when we start connecting into these parts of ourselves, life becomes so magical. And so it really matters.
It does. It really matters. And the thing is that when you reconnect with the cycles, when you reconnect with Gaia in the cycles, right? So even like your feet on the earth in the soil, bare feet in the soil is going to be a different experience than bare feet in the summer. It's going to be a different experience than bare feet in the soil in the winter, right?
Or on the snow in the winter.
Or on the snow. Yeah, in any of those situations. And it's all feeding information. And it's not just conscious information. In fact, it's very little conscious information. It's all the information, though, that is the information that's been collected over eons. And you are imbibing that when you're interacting with nature and with the sun and with the moon, etc., in all of these ways. And when you do that, what happens when you actually attune to the cycle, into all of the cycles, and you really like allow yourself to, we live in such a highly adrenalized state now because of in this patriarchal system that we've all been plugged into and that we've all been plodding along in, right? We haven't even realized how disconnected we've become. And so we are in the middle of winter. And in the Northern Hemisphere, like the holiday season, pushing. We're working harder. We're doing more. We're out shopping. We're doing all these things that are contrary to our nature. And it's not sustainable to continue that year after year after year. And we see like more adrenal fatigue, especially in women now more than ever. And this is because we are constantly living as if it were summer. We're constantly living as if we are creating and harvesting. We create and harvest over and over again, and we're not taking any of the fallow time. So when we replug into nature and we really actually start to follow the sun and all of the other, the cycles and everything that's happening, when the leaves are falling off the trees, when the buds are sprouting in the spring, when we actually start to follow that, what happens is we can start to create a life of greater ease. Not only is it of greater ease, though, we have greater access to our cycles of wealth, greater access to health, greater access to spirit and to the divine and to Gaia. So our intuition increases, our spiritual connection amplifies. And while all that's happening, we are able to create wealth and health with greater ease by doing less, by just being more attuned to what is happening and how our bodies, as the biological expression of source that our bodies are biology. We are animals. We are a part of Gaia. And we've forgotten that, but we are a part of Gaia. And so as we do that, the attunement allows for that greater wealth and health because we are just living more in sync with how our bodies were intended to express and exist in this realm.
Yeah. Allowing ourselves to have the downtime, allowing ourselves to have the inward introspective time. And as women, we cycle through that outward and inward time every 28 days throughout our menstrual cycle. And the more we rest into our restful time, the more resourced and recharged we are when we go into our time of ovulation, of summer, of magnetism, of visibility, of being out there. And all of that matters because it's recharging your battery pack, and you're charging your battery pack when it's meant to be charged, and you're using your batteries when you're meant to be using them.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's so powerful because there are the cycles of the earth, right? And then there are the cycles of the moon. And as women, we are especially attuned to the cycles of the moon. And we've also, in the same way that we have been pushing through the yearly cycles, the wheel of the year, as we've been pushing through those cycles when we should be resting, we are often, as women, pushing through the moon cycles that would allow us to have some rest. And during that 28-day cycle, whether you're bleeding or not anymore, so even if you're not bleeding, you will still cycle with the moon's energy. And what we have to realize is that the way society is set up right now, this 24-hour solar cycle as the one that takes precedence for all people, rather than listening to attuning our bodies to the moon cycle as women, we end up, again, burnt out. And so we understand. We do live in a society where so many of us work in corporate environments and so forth and so on. But even within that, there are ways to really shift and to find an attunement that can work for you. In an ideal world, women would be able to take 3 days off work when they bled, in an ideal world. That's what women used to do. That's what women for thousands and thousands of years did. They rested while they bled. That was the time. That was the downtime. That was the dark moon time. That was the fallow time. We still need that. So even if we can't, ask our boss, like, hey, I need time off to bleed. In an ideal world, we're timeline weaving our way there as much as possible. But we can still really honor that in those times, that's not the time to go out with our girlfriends after work. It's not the time to do all the extra shopping we need to do, right? So we can still, even within this system, slowly begin to divest, slowly begin to pull ourselves out, slowly find ways that we can actually honor our cycle in our body. Because even these little steps, even the steps of watching the sunrise every day and the sunset every day, even the steps of starting to eat more local seasonal food, starting the step of recognizing, like, I'm hearing my body needs rest right now. All of those things will contribute to creating greater and greater impact in your life as you go. You will gain momentum as you begin to allow the attunement to happen.
Yeah. And this is the reclamation. Yeah. This is the reclamation of the wisdom keepers, is coming back into our cyclical nature, coming back into the remembrance of who we are as part of Gaia, as part of this earth. We are human beings that are constantly interacting with all of the wisdom and information that surrounds us in the outside world. The songs of the birds, the sound of the water, the light coming into us, all of that gives us information and insight. And there is so much information that is streaming into the planet right now. Yeah. We are receiving so many upgrades and new information and new technologies, human technologies. I don't mean AI technologies. I mean what we are psychically, our psychic technology, what we're capable of when we develop our inner technologies. And that's really what Janet and I are most interested in right now, is working with wisdom keepers who are becoming more and more connected to their cyclical nature and more tapped into their psychic technology that allows us to bring in a whole new way of weaving new timelines, of creating new earth, and of healing humanity. Like this, all that we need to heal humanity is inside of us. It is held inside of us. It is coming online right now. We are in a time of reclamation, of remembrance. And so the clearer we can get in our channel, the clearer we can get in our pineal gland, in all of our psychic skills, while becoming more and more embodied, releasing trauma from our bodies and letting our soul rest so deeply in our bodies that we are experiencing this amazing sensation of heaven on earth, where we are so in tune with our physical bodies, and our psychic intuitive gates are open to being antennas for receiving new information that's coming in, while simultaneously accessing ancient, deep wisdom and nature wisdom that surrounds us. We are, as Jen and I say, like, we are Kairos, where healers walk outside of time. We are walking outside of time right now, having all these old memories waking up in us, all these blood lineage memories, all these soul lineage memories of healing modalities, of human psychic technology skills that we have. And the way to turn those on is truly through coming back into our cyclical nature, our cyclical way of being. It's a profound time to be alive. Oh, it is an incredibly profound time to be alive.
Yeah.
And it's a choice.
Yeah.
And you have to choose it every day.
Yeah. Sometimes multiple times in a day.
Sometimes 352 times in a day.
True story. Yeah, I love that so much. And that's a big piece about being a healer right now, right? Like, so for us who are healers right now, it is so important that we are resourced. It is so important that we are attuned to what's happening in our bodies. It is so important that we are holding these frequencies of connection to Gaia, of the healing powers of Gaia, of the healing powers of the cycles, of all of that and how it plays out with us. So when we are taking care of ourselves and honoring our body temples as healers, when we are allowing ourselves to be supported by the seasons, supported by the earth, supported by the moon, when we are allowing ourselves to be held by all that is available to us, right? We are actually more powerful healers. We actually can channel more healing energy. We have greater heightened intuition. We are receiving downloads from Gaia and from Source all the time because we become much more clear conduits. We don't have as much static in our system anymore, so we can allow the work that we are meant to do in the world to come through us fully, powerfully. Everything gets turned up. Mm-hmm. And right now, as Ina said earlier, this is an all hands on deck moment. I mean, our world is bonkers, and it's bonkers because we are more disconnected than ever from our world, right? The more disconnected we become, the more that the toxic systems of oppression continue to create harm to the planet, the more that we are disengaged from the earth, right? I mean, when we actually go outside and spend time interacting with Gaia, what happens is that we raise the vibration of the planet. We raise the vibration of Gaia. We raise the vibration of one another. We create a field of potential for the healing of Gaia that is kind of like an energetic spiritual activism.
It really is. And we become unfuckable with. That's the thing. The more connected you are to the cycles, the more empowered you are, the more attuned to your intuition you are. So the less able, the less susceptible you become to outside influence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that matters.
And that so matters right now because the outside influence is very loud.
There's a narrative.
There is definitely
very
a narrative. And it's got a lot of propaganda that goes with it. And so if you can really literally have your feet on the ground, but like not just
bare
the ground,
feet.
The soil, bare feet on the soil, right? And the sunlight in your face, then what is happening is you are in the active remembrance of what matters, what's important. And then you are in the same space as Gaia, as source, as the sun. You are a part of that powerful co-creation of the remembrance of the truth, right? And this is a big piece of what we're healing on the planet right now, right? And as healers, we're not just in sessions. We're not just on leading groups in healing or doing one-on-one healings. We are also the embodiment of what needs to change on the planet right now. And what needs to change more than anything is that we need to return to our roots, quite literally return to our roots, right? And all that is within Gaia so that we can be her agents on earth, right? As a part of her. We are her.
Yes. And this is why Kairos Wisdom Keepers. This podcast is what lights Janet and I up. Your magic is our mission, and we love working with people who are connecting back into their psychic, intuitive, nature, cyclical roots. And you doing this work matters. It matters so much. And we are so excited to go on this podcast journey with all of you. We're going to go deep into all of the cycles. We're going to move through the wheel of the year with you. We're going to have really powerful, fun conversations about what it means to reclaim these codes that are inside of you and to turn all of this stuff on, because you all have amazing psychic intuitive abilities that are, some of you, they're just coming online, some of you, they're advanced, but all of you, they're all getting amplified, and we are so excited to play in this field with you.
So excited. We are the Wisdom Keepers, y'all.
Yes.
We are the Wisdom Keepers in communication with the record keepers and the ancient wisdom keepers. And so this is us.
This is our time. If you're listening to this, you're one of us. So welcome.
And we're so grateful.
Yes. All right. We'll see you next time.
Take care.